direct threat, even ordering the Pentagon to be ready to attack Nigeria for what? The president should retract such, or else we sever our relationship with America until when Americans will have the sense to elect a president that is civil.
Now, that was Sheikh Gumi's response to threat of President Donald Trump's invasion of Nigeria. You can see that this man is obviously against Trump coming into Nigeria to collaborate with Nigeria to help Nigeria military in solving this insecurity problem. He's actually a controversial figure. In a shocking new statement, the Kaduna-based cleric Sheikh Gumi has once again defended Nigeria's bandits, saying they are only killing and raping in revenge and that they are more willing to embrace peace than the IPOB members. Now, speaking in an interview with Trust TV, Sheikh Gumi claimed that bandits in northern Nigeria are not driven by ideology or secession, but by pain and vengeance against what he described as hostilities from the Nigerian state. Now, according to him, these groups who have killed thousands and displaced entire communities are only reacting to years of military bombardment and neglect. He said they are on a revenge mission and that the Fulani herdsmen don't attack without cause. They have lost parents, brethren to our hostilities too. So, and he also further argued that despite their atrocities, bandits want peace and have shown readiness to dialogue with government officials, unlike IPOB, whom he described as very stubborn secessionists. Now, he further claimed that if you call them for peace, that's the bandits, they will come. But IPOB refuses to take any deal, any peaceful meetings or peaceful deals. They are still behind creating a separate state. Now, this is not the first time this controversial cleric has called for dialogue and amnesty for armed bandits. In the past years, Gumi met several gang leaders deep in the forest, urging the government to offer them rehabilitation instead of military force. However, many Nigerians see his stance as dangerous and insensitive, especially as victims of banditry continue to suffer mass killings, kidnappings, and sexual violence. Now, former Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari had once regretted trusting same bandits after they swore by the Quran to drop their arms, only to return to crime, with some becoming leaders of new terror cells. Now, a lot of Nigerians on X say Gumi's comment reflects a wider debate in Nigeria, which is, should the government negotiate with terrorists or crush them by military might? Well, while peace advocates believe dialogue will reduce violence, there are other people who believe that appeasing armed bandits only embodies them, undermines justice, and demoralizes security forces, risking their lives in the fight against the terror. Meanwhile, victims of bandit attacks from Zamfara State to Kaduna State continue to cry out for protection and justice. However, some peace advocates and northern elders say Gumi's approach, though controversial, may hold the key to ending years of bloodshed. But some political analysts say while Gumi may have a point about the socio-economic roots of banditry, the movement has evolved beyond mere revenge. Many bandit leaders now operate sophisticated networks of kidnapping for ransom, illegal mining, and arms smuggling, making billions of naira annually. The Nigerian government needs to find a way to diplomatically partner with the US to end any form of insecurity in Nigeria. These armed bandits are the ones who end up going into Christian-dominated communities to rain havoc against vulnerable, defenseless people. Trump is willing to support and partner with Nigeria to end these recurrent killings happening, but it all depends on how this government is willing to cooperate to get this help. Let's take a listen to an interview involving Sheikh Gumi and someone who confronted his extremist view.
My question to you also is, where have we been getting it wrong as a nation? Why are we still having this conversation even after many years and several efforts?
One of the key reasons why we are getting it wrong is because of people like Sheikh Gumi. In a clear case of a war, because he's talking about bloodshed, there has been bloodshed. Nigeria has been a theater of war for almost 2 decades. Possibly it is not affecting him directly because most of the casualties, most of the mass murders is that of Christians. He appears to be a negotiator, but to be very honest with you, he has advocated more for appeasing the terrorists rather than advocating justice for the victims. And I think it's important to us because I believe he's an Islamic cleric. He understands the concept of justice. How do you deal with a scenario of people raping women, people killing soldiers, people decimating homes, people sacking communities, but then the strength of your advocacy is that the government should appease them? Where in the whole world, in the history of any war, whether guerrilla warfare, whether military warfare, have you ever found a situation where there is an active bloodshed going on and then you believe that appeasing the criminals that are carrying out these genocidal attacks and infusing them into the military will help? From the very beginning, when the notion of amnesty, de-radicalization and integration began, we have never seen a scenario where these repentant terrorists, as they call them repentant, have ever led people to their camps and they were decimated. They have been growing exponentially. They have been acquiring more arms. So that is basically the problem we are having. We are getting it wrong simply because we have managed to create a false narrative. An example is we have managed to compartmentalize terrorism or these Islamist activities to look as if it is only Boko Haram that is doing it. The reason is because the rest of the terrorist groups that are jihadist in nature have been forged into different names. For instance, he's talking about two fighting. There is no two fighting anywhere. It is important also, we would love it if you are able to have an example of one Christian militia that is operational in either Sokoto or any of the Muslim dominant state that have been raping women and killing people, then we can understand that. And at least the Muslims will equally lend their voice and say, okay, whatever it is the Americans are claiming that the Christians are suffering from, we are also suffering from it. And since it is all about eradicating terrorism, then good, come and eradicate them. But I think the problem is not just because there are foot soldiers who are killing people. It is because there are people who are sympathetic to the jihadist cause, there are people who are sponsoring them, and the involvement of any foreign nation in a scenario where there is a genocide does not end with the foot soldiers. It traces those who are sympathetic to their cause, whether because of political or religious or ideological beliefs. It equally traces those who sponsor them. And I think that is primarily where the problem lies in Nigeria. We are not sincere with the war against terrorism. Once it involves, because wherever you go to, we can't force ourselves. Most of the time, you find a lot of Muslims claiming that these people, they are not truly representing Islam and all of that, blah, 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 and all of that. But the truth is that there is an Islamist, well-armed Islamist jihadist group that has been massacring Christians. And what we find, unfortunately, people who should be speaking or condemning this act are busy trying as much as possible to create sympathy for them. You can imagine him saying that killing the terrorists will now amount to genocide. Then what will you tell the people that have been burying there? For instance, just of late in Yelewata, over 250 people were killed. But he describes that not as a genocide. He says two fighting, even though we don't know of...
All right, Zari Yusuf. I mean, we are really trying to manage time, and I know you have a lot to say, but let me bring